Let's talk a little more about politics. We got Jim McLaughlin, McLaughlin and Associates President and Partner, and Mark Penn, Harris Poll Chairman, Stagwell President and CEO. Gentlemen, welcome. Mark Penn, is tomorrow any kind of referendum on, I don't know, Democrats, on socialism, on the economy, on Trump? What should we read into tomorrow?
Well, I do think the New York City election is an important one because you're going to wonder, if Mamdani wins, like how the heck did we get someone who espouses the kind of views that he has and is a member of the DSA become mayor of New York City, right? I mean, that's something that we've got to analyze and look at. The other two gubernatorial races, they're in Democratic-leaning states. I think that if a Republican wins one of them, I think that's a pretty good sign. If Democrats win both, I'm not sure that it means a heck of a lot. It means that whoever it is ran a good campaign. New Jersey looks like it's heating up. Virginia looks a little bit more of a distant race, but I don't think they're national trendsetters.
Yeah. Jim McLaughlin, so Obama was in town, but not exactly. He called Mamdani, but he wouldn't endorse him. Yeah. I guess we believe him that he actually called him, but he wouldn't endorse him. But go ahead. Who's going to win the New York race tomorrow?
Look, I think, unfortunately, they got started too late. You give Donald Trump credit, because what did he do? He announced right after the midterms, and he started running, and he went out and got it, and he talked about his issues. They should have been trying to expose and trying to create rejection with Mamdani over the summer. Now what they're doing, it's too little, too late. And they haven't created the anti-Mamdani vote. Depending upon whose poll you believe, the guy is still a net positive. They don't know how crazy and how insane this guy is. Look, if the Atlas Intel poll is right, which I'm not really sure about, maybe there's a shot.
It's not a two-way race.
But
Curtis is not dropping out.
Yep, and Curtis isn't dropping out.
You're not doing that well. Curtis dissed the Trump vote altogether. And Trump himself.
That's been Curtis's biggest problem. Because I've seen in some of the polls, he's only getting about 6 out of 10 Republicans, and he's only getting about half the Trump vote. He should have started with the Trump vote and then looked to expand off that, because Donald Trump got about 31% of the...
Some of us warned Curtis about this very point. Let me ask my friend Mark Penn. Mark, let's look at some economic numbers. Real clear politics. On the economy, Mr. Trump is underwater, 41 approval, 54 disapproval, okay? Now, the Democrats may be worse on the economy. I don't know that, but I was surprised. The Atlanta Fed GDP tracker just came out today and said the third quarter just ended is up 4% at an annual rate. The second quarter, which was Mr. Trump's first quarter, was up 3.8% at an annual rate. The stock market's been booming, but for some reason, the polling on the economy is not very good for Mr. Trump. What do you make of that?
Well, I've seen this situation, frankly, a number of different times. I had it with President Clinton, where where everybody thought the economy was bad, the economic numbers were great, and so in the State of the Union, we challenged the media, and we had the economists ready to go, we had all the documentation, and we went out, and 6 months later, everybody thought the economy was great, and it was great. So what I say is, first, unlike in the Biden administration, you need the facts, okay? If you have the facts, you're gonna have to sell the facts, because the economy is as good as people perceive of the economy. Unless there's an incredible, incredible economic catastrophe or some incredible economic thing the other way, within the normal range of even 4% growth, most people cannot tell whether or not there's 3 people unemployed they know or 4 people unemployed they know. Well, they cannot tell the difference. They get it from the media. And so in the last Trump administration, they successfully convinced everybody that the economy was great.
That was that guy.
He's going to have an opportunity with his State of the Union to do it again.
That was that guy Kudlow, was out there every day by the sticks talking about the good economy. No, but they need. I think Mark Penn makes a good point. The numbers are very good. Real incomes are rising. The economy is 4%. The unemployment is low, 4.2, 4.3%. They need a better marketing job. There's no Kudlows. They need more.
You know what? President Trump used to talk about that. He said every time Larry goes goes out there, talks to the press, the markets go up.
I mean, the markets too, and a lot of people own stock.
But look-
135 million people own stock, and they've done great.
Yep, and look, there was some great stuff in the big, beautiful bill. The energy independence that's going on, the tax cuts, the energy deregulation, it's going to get there. But the other thing you got to remember, they got buried during the Biden years. They got buried with inflation. It was almost 30%. When I would tell them that in focus groups, they would say to me that it's way higher than that.
Yep.
That's how bad they thought it was. Plus, remember on election day, 70% said the country was off on the wrong
So
track.
there's still a hangover of Biden inflation.
There's no doubt about it. And look, people have to feel, Mark made a great point, he's exactly right, perception is reality in this business. So we've got to go out there, tell the story every
Get 'em
day.
out there.
Tell them we're
Pound
putting
the pavement.
we're putting
Get 'em
people
out
back
by
to
the
work,
sticks.
and we're putting more money in their pockets.
Tell them to wake up early and go to bed late. Start selling the story, for heaven's sake. Help the president, for heaven's sake. His policies are very good.
They're
And
excellent.
the economy is in pretty good shape. It's only been a couple months. I love it. I got a Democratic pollster agreeing with a Republican pollster. That's worth the ticket of admission right there. Mark Penn, thank you, my friend. Come around on set when you're in New York. Jim McLaughlin, thank you ever so much.